Hey everyone, it's Krista Novisky, and welcome back to Best Health Positively. And I'm excited about this episode today to talk about and explore the placebo response. We'll talk a little about the use of placebo generally, some clinical examples where the placebo response is obviously demonstrated, and then we'll get into the how of the placebo response. And we'll end up by talking about the concept of placebo and how it applies in our lives, what this information means for us and our health right now. So now just a quick reminder here, quite simply, the placebo response, as I'm sure you probably know, means people in the control group of a medical study get better without taking the drug being tested. Instead, they're usually taking a sugar pill or the, quote, placebo. So in these studies, they're testing a drug, and they have one group that's the treatment group, and those people are taking the actual drug. And then another group, the control group, and the people in that group are taking the placebo, usually a sugar pill. Now, keep in mind, the people in the different groups don't know whether they're taking the real drug or the placebo, the sugar pill, for example. So this is where it's considered a double-blind study. So again, with the placebo response, we see people in the control group who are not taking the drug being tested actually get better or show improvement just because they believe the pill that they're taking is going to help them. So just due to their thoughts and beliefs, and I find this to be quite incredible, that the mind and belief can literally stimulate actual changes or healing in the body. And it also makes me curious about how we can tap into this, how we can tap into this ability for our own healing proactively, and how can we use this information to improve our health. But typically in mainstream medicine and in the media, the concept of placebo is, I'm sure you've probably heard, is minimized. For example, the control group, the group not taking the drug, showed 30% improvement in blood pressure, for example. And then they'll say, but that was only due to placebo, meaning that they were only taking a sugar pill, not the actual drug, but they still improved. And my thinking there is, so they thought they were taking the drug and they believed it was going to improve their blood pressure, and it did. Wow, this is incredible. And this routinely happens. The placebo response we see in about 1/3 of people in control groups of studies. Typically, 1/3 show improvement as a result of placebo. I find this fascinating and really exciting, actually. But it also makes me wonder why we haven't been more interested in general as a society in how the placebo delivers improvement, since it's only due to the belief that people have that they're taking a drug when they actually aren't. So as I mentioned before, what you typically hear about is the minimization of the placebo, not how incredible the placebo effect is. And one reason for this is that the drug companies work hard to diminish placebo effect because patients who get better by placebo interfere with the drug's ability to get approved for the market. So you can see why there's not this great interest or effort in highlighting placebo response. It's not really surprising, but nonetheless, I want to share a couple of clinical examples and case studies that really demonstrate the placebo response. And I'll say these are just a couple of isolated examples that I'm going to share here that have been documented in the literature, but there are thousands more that you can explore that have been documented. And if you'd like, I will put the link in the show notes to the Spontaneous Remission Project. And that documentation will provide many examples where we have seen remission from disease or people getting better when they haven't had treatment. So let's talk about a couple of these cases, though. The first case study I want to share was actually published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation. And in this situation, the patient had severe nausea and vomiting, and the doctors were able to use diagnostic tests to confirm this. They could see that there were contractions in this woman's stomach that showed this chaotic pattern that matched her complaints with the nausea. And the doc offered her a new drug. And he said, this is a rare, extremely new, potent drug, and this will definitely cure your nausea. And he gave her the drug, and within minutes of the patient taking the drug, her nausea was gone. And the doctors were able to see this using that diagnostic test again. They could see that it indeed measured a normal pattern in her stomach contraction. But here's the thing. The docs had lied. Instead of receiving a new drug, she was given Ipecac, which is a substance known not to prevent nausea, but to induce it. But her belief that the drug was going to be incredibly potent and relieve her symptoms was actually able to override the effects of the Ipecac. Now, the bottom line here is when this patient believed her symptoms would resolve, they did, and her stomach contractions subsided, even when the Ipecac should have made them worse. So this is pretty fascinating. Another case study I'd like to share involves the healing power of surgery, but actually of fake surgery. Yeah, you heard me right there. So instead of the placebo being a pill, in this case, the placebo here was the actual fake surgery. So let me, tell you how this was carried out. This study was, again, actually documented and published in the New England Journal of Medicine by an orthopedic surgeon, and this study was actually considered the gold standard of modern medicine because it was a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study. And this particular surgeon who conducted the study specialized in knee surgery for people with terrible, debilitating knee pain. And he designed this placebo-controlled study where patients in the one group, the treatment group, got the actual surgery for the knee. And patients in the other group, the placebo group, went through an elaborate sham fake surgery involving sedation and little marks where incisions would have been made, and a video monitor of recorded surgery of a different patient was used. So the patients thought they were indeed viewing the surgery that they were undergoing. They were able to see this on the screen. And the results were fascinating. In the real surgery group, 1/3 of the people had resolution of their knee pain. And those in the fake surgery group had the same result. 1/3 had resolution of their pain. So again, the patients in the fake surgery group really thought they were going to get better because they thought they were getting this real surgery. And their belief ignited this cascade of events in their bodies that somehow resulted in the resolution of their long-standing pain. These patients got better solely because they believed they had the surgery. So let's get into the physiology now. How do these placebos work? What's happening with biochemistry or physiology that could result in the alleviation of the symptoms or healing altogether? Now, it's important to point out the placebo effect is more than just relief of symptoms or more than being just in the patient's head. The body is actually responding physiologically. Remember the woman with the nausea who I mentioned a little bit ago, whose stomach contractions actually improved, and it was documented with those tests? There are numerous examples where patients show improvement, but it's also able to be documented in the physical body. And these are examples such as bald men growing hair, blood pressure dropping, warts disappearing, ulcers healing, stomach acid levels decreasing, colon inflammation decreasing, cholesterol levels dropping, reduced swelling. You get the idea. These are things that can be measured. So it's not just the patient reporting that they feel better. There have been so many documented cases where we actually can measure this in the physical body. So placebos don't just change how you feel. They change your biochemistry. And these are things that we have been able to measure over time. So there are different explanations for how placebo might work. And it's quite possible, given the complexity of the human body, that there are a combination of different factors involved, of course. But two really major factors that are responsible for this are belief and the innate capacity of the body to heal. Now, first of all, in terms of belief, the patient thinks they'll get better, they expect to get better, and the belief that they're actually getting better makes them feel differently. And that belief factor, coupled with the body's innate healing capability, remember the body is a self-healing organism, the body's hardwired for self-repair, and these two together, the belief and the body's ability to heal, are likely what account for, are likely what account for healing and relief of symptoms that change the physiology. So the takeaway here is that placebo effects confirm this mind-body link, the mind or belief being able to produce an effect in the body. So more about the physiology here. What happens when thoughts, feelings, and beliefs translate into physiological change. What is actually happening at the physiological level? Well, one major physiological effect is the stimulation of the relaxation response, for example, of believing that healing will occur by whatever means, drug or placebo. This stimulates the relaxation response, which more specifically is the parasympathetic nervous system being stimulated. And when this happens, the stress hormones drop and health-inducing relaxation and repair mechanisms are activated. And the key is that it's only in this rested, relaxed state that the body can repair itself. Bottom line, positive belief boosts immune system activity by turning off the stress response and also turning on the parasympathetic nervous system response. Now, I just want to circle back here and remind you that the stress response is a primitive response that protects us from immediate danger. During this acute stress response, we can say that this acute response is activated when we perceive something as stressful. I guess I want to make the point that it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's life-threatening, but we perceive it as being immediate danger or life-threatening. And when this happens, when we perceive something as being that stressful, the immune system and self-repair mechanisms are actually turned off because our body is in survival mode, trying to survive, and the body isn't so worried about the immune system. It's worried about more immediate demands. So that was just a side note. But the important connection to make here is that through both responses, the stress response of the sympathetic nervous system or the relaxation response of the parasympathetic nervous system, the mind and body communicate through hormones and neurotransmitters that start in the brain, leave the brain, and go to other parts of the body. Therefore, it makes perfect sense that what we think and feel translates into physiological changes in the rest of the body. So it shouldn't be too surprising that our thoughts and beliefs have such a big impact on our biochemistry. Now, we've covered a lot here, but just to bring it all together, how is this information useful to us here and now? Well, we don't talk a lot about how thoughts and feelings affect our health as part of our regular health care. I mean, when was the last time you heard your doctor talk about this? Typically, not at all. So this is our responsibility. This is something we have control over. And again, I find this so exciting that there's something powerful that gets set into motion, a biochemical cascade, if you will, when our thoughts are focused on positive belief and expectation. This improves our health by activating the part of our brain and nervous system that protects us from disease by releasing hormones and neurotransmitters that act in different parts of the body. So let's try to use this to our advantage. We can use this proactively as one of our tools. Just like we talked about mindset in a different episode, this evidence around placebo just underscores the importance of mindset. This should give us some momentum to create ways of thinking that help us address situations and stressors so that we put ourselves in the best position to move toward better health, despite the challenges that we're going to face every single day. For example, given this information, shouldn't we be extremely selective about what we put into our minds, like our thoughts, our emotions, or input via content, reading, viewing, whatever it may be? Let's really pay attention to what we're thinking about and bringing in and be more discerning. With a little focused effort, I think we can get our thoughts and emotions in line with promoting better health and make a real significant difference. And that also means being selective about our interactions and relationships and what kinds of emotions are involved with our relationships. For example, it leads me to be conscious about nurturing those relationships that are uplifting and positive. So I'd love for you to spend some time thinking and brainstorming about areas where you'd like to improve. Maybe create a different way of thinking that allows you to maintain positive thoughts and expectations around challenges. I know I'm going to work on this, and I hope you'll think about it too. So thanks for joining me here today. I would love for you to let me know what you think, or if you have questions, I'd love to hear those too. I genuinely want to hear from you guys so that I can be helpful and deliver content that inspires positive change. So take care, and I will see you here next time. Thanks again.